Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show. Are you ready to live an inspired and empowered life? We're live Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on W4WN.com, Talk4TV.com, and my YouTube channel. So welcome. Today, we will be talking about how to have healthy, clear communication, part 2. We will continue where we left off last week. In order to have joyful, loving relationships, you need to have healthy, clear communication. Join me today to learn how to have successful interactions with others. Discover how healthy, clear communication can help you create an inspired and empowered life. Together, let's create a life you love. I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker and intuitive breakthrough expert. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to inspire and empower women around the world to achieve their dreams and to have an inspired and empowered life. This show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It's for educational purposes only. So last show, we talked about awareness, having the awareness that you have been triggered, that something has given you an emotional reaction like fear, anger, grief, shame, guilt. And then we talked about how you need to clear it. It's really important for you to clear, to process through the emotional issues before you communicate. Number 2 that we talked about last week was to be clear on what it is you want to communicate. What are your wants? What are your needs? What is it that you really want to communicate to someone else? And the clearer you are, the better the communication, the clearer the communication. And I see we have Marie in the house. Good morning, Marie. Welcome. And so again, it's really important for you to have that clarity. Now, when I'm going to give my quick Psych 101 lesson, when you are communicating, when you are processing, you want to make sure that you're coming from the right state of mind. Now, what I mean by that is you have your conscious mind. And your conscious mind is a really empowering part of you that is the one that makes decisions in present time. And when you make a decision and you're choosing to respond to someone in a healthy way, you empower yourself. However, very often your subconscious mind, is the one with a reaction. When you get emotionally triggered, when you react from that place, that's your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part that actually, very often in relationships, is the one that you end up coming from until you clear your energy, and then you empower yourself with your conscious mind and choose to come from a different place. Your subconscious mind is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time, has recorded every moment, every belief, every emotion that you have ever had. And so when you get triggered, when you react with an emotional reaction, you're reacting from your subconscious mind. And your job is to clear the energy so that you can come from a clearer state. Now, the other kind of mind that I like to talk about is your superconscious mind. And that is your higher self, this wise, unconditionally loving part of you and your soul. And when you have cleared the energy, cleared the issues, and you're coming from that conscious present mind, you can be coming from that adult, healthy adult self, or you can be coming from a higher self, which are very connected. And so the more that you clear your energy, clear your issues, the more you can come from that healthier place. And when you come from those healthier places, that's when it's more likely to have healthy, clear communication with another person. So let's talk about how. Let's talk about healthy, clear communication. And what does that look like? What does that even mean? So, and if anybody has any questions, anybody that's live and you want to comment, make any comments, please ask questions or comments to anything that I am saying. And I see that we have Allie in the house. Good morning. Good morning, all of you that I may not know that are there. So I want to welcome you all. So let's talk about guidelines. Now, I believe these guidelines are really important when you are talking about having healthy, clear communications. Okay? Healthy, clear communications. So you have the awareness that you've been triggered or something you need to clear or something you need to communicate to another person. Now, again, I'm going to talk about this. I talked about this last time, but I'm really going to talk about it again because it's really important. If you are triggered and you are very angry, you are in a rage, do not engage the other person. And that includes anger, that includes fear, that includes shame, guilt. Like if any of those emotions are getting triggered, I am going to support you in not engaging with the person at the time. Because what ends up happening is when you engage and you are in that emotional reaction, usually what happens is when you engage, the emotional reaction escalates. So if you're already feeling angry, you're going to get angrier and you may do or say things you later regret. If you're already in fear, you may end up leaving the conversation or the encounter feeling more fear, more terrified, more upset, and feeling like your self-esteem has taken a real big shot. And the same thing can go for shame or guilt. So it's really important really want to encourage you when I'm coaching clients to make sure that you are in a clearer state. So, for example, let me give you an example. I talked about Jenny and Jimmy. And what would happen with Jenny and Jimmy is Jimmy would go into a rage, and there would be a rage. Jenny would shut down and she would go into freeze. So even if she wanted to confront Jimmy, she couldn't. But I will also tell you that when someone is in a rage and they're activated, they're not going to hear you. So you are better off. What I do, I tell people, so what I would say to Jenny and Jimmy when they came to me is do not engage each other when you are both in that emotional reaction. Go your separate ways. Take a time out. Do not talk to each other and continue the conversation until each of you has calmed down and processed through enough that you can come together in a healthy conversation. And so Jenny and Jimmy listened to what I was coaching them, and they were able to start having healthier conversations with the process that I'm going to be sharing with you shortly, modeling it so that they can then have a healthier conversation. And so it's really important that if you are activated in any way, that you take your time out. And if that person is in a rage, and they can't even, sometimes when someone is in a rage, and I just want you to know that I know about rage from personal experience. I have been in relationships with ragers. And ragers are really scary. Now, if you're a rager yourself, I'm going to really support you to know that you can heal. You can learn how to constructively manage your anger so that it becomes constructive rather than destructive. And usually, as a rager, you probably learned that behavior from one of your parents or caretakers because that's what was modeled to you. And so we end up doing what was modeled to us. So what I really want to support you is to be able to, if someone is in the rage, if it's you, really support you in taking your time out and saying, I need to get away from here, take a walk, go outside, go to a room, anything to take a time out. If it's the other person in the rage and you ask them, and you need to like be in a calm voice. You don't want to scream at them because that will escalate the interaction. But in a calm down voice, if you don't calm down, I am going to leave. Now, they may get angrier, but here's the thing. You need to take care of yourself. You need to protect yourself. Whether if it's in person and they're not listening to you, leave. Leave the room, leave the house, leave the situation. If it's on the telephone, you give them a warning. If they don't listen to the warning, then hang up. And this is about you taking care of yourself. This is about you setting boundaries, that you're not going to tolerate being raged at like that. It's not okay. And so I am going to support all of you to remember your timeouts, because those timeouts can really save relationships, and it can also save yourself, and save yourself on every level. And obviously, if you're in a physically dangerous situation, then you need to leave. You don't even give any warnings. You just leave. Do what you got to do to take care of you. Bottom line. And obviously, if you're a parent, then you're going to take care of you're going to take care of the kids as well. So that's what I just wanted to support you, all of you. Now, when you are having that healthy, clear communication, you want to set up a time that works for both of you. Now, how many of you have ever tried to talk to somebody when they're busy watching a TV show or they're busy doing something else? If you think that you are going to get attention when that's not a good time. And so what I support you in doing is I support you in scheduling a time where you can then be able to have a healthy conversation where both of you can be present, because that's what you want. You want a conversation where you're both going to be present. And very often you need to schedule it. It's okay. It's important. So you're going to schedule a time that's convenient for both of you. Now, when you are to create the guideline, you want to create guidelines for your healthy, clear communications. Now, before we go into the guidelines, I want to support you that, again, the clearer you are about what you want to communicate, the better the results are more likely to be. And what I've done for you is I've created a meditation called the Intuitive Decision-Making Meditation. And what this meditation can do for you is help you gain the clarity that you need. It can help bring you into a more peaceful state. You can ask the question, what is my wants? What are my needs? What is it I need to communicate? And then be able to communicate those pieces in order for you to have that clearer communication. And so I'm offering this free gift. It's a free gift for you, an intuitive decision-making meditation to help you clear your energy, connect more deeply to the higher self and the adult self so that you can have those healthy communications, and then get clear on what the communication you want to have before you communicate to the person. So very often what I do is, before I'm having a healthy, clear communication with someone, I'm getting really clear what it is I want to say. And so this meditation can help you do that. And so if you go to this link, Juan, can you put up the link? inspiredandempoweredliving.com/meditation. So it's inspired with an ED and empowered with an ED, living.com/meditation. inspiredandempowered.com/meditation. inspiredandempoweredliving.com/meditation for the intuitive decision making meditation. And that can help you prepare you to have that healthy, clear communication. Thank you, Juan. So the guidelines for that healthy, clear communication is one, you make an agreement. There will be no screaming, yelling, obviously hitting, blaming, or shaming. Very important ground rules. The other thing is you want to make sure that you and the other person, ideally, are taking 100% responsibility for yourself. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if you made a mistake and you said something or did something that you regret, it's about you owning, yes, I made a mistake and I'm sorry, and being able to have that conversation about that. Now, if the other person was the one who made the mistake or something happened, then hopefully you want them to be able to be person enough to be able to own their piece in it. Now, with Jenny and Jimmy, the reason why they were able to heal as a couple was because each one of them were willing to take the responsibility, the 100% responsibility for their actions. Jimmy took responsibility for his rages and began learning new communication skills and how to deal with his anger so that he wasn't raging, and he learned how to have healthy communication. Jenny learned and healed what was the trauma that would have her go into the situation where she would go into freeze mode and shut down. And as she healed the trauma, she was able to then be healthier in the interactions with Jimmy. And the other thing that happened is sometimes Jenny realized that she would actually poke Jimmy, that she would actually trigger him, that she would say things very passive aggressively. I talked about that. This passive aggressive way, because he was aggressive and she was passive aggressive. And so she would do or say things, even like comments, sarcasm. Sarcasm is anger acted out. And it also could be like, oh, it was only a joke, but it's not. So Jenny would do things without her consciously. She wasn't doing it consciously. She was doing it subconsciously, but it would provoke him. And so she began to take 100% responsibility for those behaviors as well, so that they could both have a healthy, clear communication. And then what's really going to be crucial is listening. Listening. So listening is a huge skill. So very often when you're in a conversation, you want to talk and you want to get your stuff out. But if you're not hearing the other person, the communication, that's how miscommunication can happen easily. Miscommunication can happen when you're not listening, or when your own issues, beliefs interfere, and you start hearing something the other person is saying from your point of view, and it's not what they're saying at all. And the communication gets missed. So really important Listening is an important skill to develop in healthy, clear communication. And then this is a really big one, and I think I mentioned it last week, but don't, and this has to go with what I just said, don't assume the other person knows what you're talking about. Don't assume that they know, that you know, or they know how you feel, or you know how they feel. You can never assume. There's a saying, when you assume, you make, of you and me. But so you do not want to make assumptions. And what I talked about last week, this is really important. People are not mind readers, and that happens very often in couples. Like with Jenny and Jimmy, Jenny would be like, he should know what I want. And Jimmy, well, she should know what I want. And then the communication was crisscrossed, wasn't working. Do not assume that anyone knows what you're thinking or feeling. And it's your responsibility, there's that 100% responsibility, to communicate clearly what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you need, what you want in healthy interactions. And then what you want to is make sure that you're really present with each other, that you're present and grounded, and you're looking into each other's eyes. And you want to look into each other's eyes and choose which one of you will go first. And then you want to become aware and really communicate in a healthy, clear way. When you did this, I felt. Now, it's really important not to shame or blame the other person. And so you want to make sure you're not youing them. When you are so lazy, or you are so stupid, or do no name calling, because that will not this needs to be a safe space, a safe place. So, and you want to communicate in a healthy, clear way. When you did the behavior, remember, you want behavior, you do not want to shame someone. When you talk about you are so stupid, or you are so this, you're shaming them. Like when you were a kid, if you were called a bad girl or a bad boy, that was shame. And that's not what you want to do to the person that you really care about. Now, I'm talking about an intimate connection. If you're talking about a work connection, then you can do this, but you don't have to go into intimate details. And you can keep it very simple, more surface level. With an intimate person, or a person you want to have more intimacy with, you will then want to perhaps give more details, so that what happens is when you overcome conflict, the relationship grows and intimacy grows. And so you're going to communicate like, for example, with Jenny and Jimmy. Jenny learned when you rage, when you go into the rages, I feel really scared. I feel terror. And I shut down. And I freeze. And when Jimmy heard what happens for Jenny, felt really badly. And he really wanted to change because he loved her so much. There was still a lot of love there. And what happens is if you don't heal the anger or heal those issues on a deeper level, the relationships can erode. The relationship where there was so much love. And I always believe that love is always there. But what happens is it gets covered up with a lot of anger. And then people split apart. And even when it's time for couples to leave each other, you can still do it in a conscious way. There's something called conscious uncoupling. There's actually a book about it. And so it's learning to communicate in those healthier ways. So when you did this, or I felt when when that behavior happened. And then the partner wants to mirror back what they heard. I heard you saying this, just to make sure that you're on the same track, that you're not miscommunicating. And then the person who goes, so let's say Jimmy was listening to Jenny. So Jimmy would say, I heard you say you get really terrified when I go into a rage. And Jenny would say, yes, I do. You heard me. And then you can ask, do you feel complete? Is there anything else you want to communicate? And see if the person has anything. And then the next person goes. Now, a really good book for modeling this is Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix. It's a great book, so I highly recommend it. And there are some other books. There's Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. That's another book that would be really good. And there is, now this is an old book for parents, but I actually used to do parenting courses based on this book. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. So How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber and Elaine Majlish. So those are really good books. Now, does anybody have any questions about anything that I've said in the communication process? Any comments? Anything? And what I really want to ask you is, and please put any comments or anything that came up for you, anything awareness that you had. So my question to you is, what would block you from having healthy, clear communication? What would block you from have healthy, clear communication? Write down the sentence. And see what comes. Now, obviously, if you're driving, you can't do this, but you can always come back. You can find us on the YouTube channel. You can find us on iHeart Podcast or Apple, Spotify, Pandora. We're on many podcasts. Or you can go to my YouTube. You can go to Talk4TV or W4WN.com. So what would block you from having healthy, clear communication? So just write the first things that come to you. Take a breath and just write. And then just let yourself get in touch with what that would be. And then the next question is, a way I can have healthy, clear communication is. A way I can have healthy, clear communication is. Like, what is it you need to do to have that healthy, clear communication? So allow yourself to get in touch with that. And we have Allie who says, anxiety from being fearful of what the other person's reaction will be. Thank you, Allie. And that's such an important. So what happens in communications is you may be really scared and anxious to even have that communication with the other person because you don't know how they're going to react or respond. And that's true. It can be really scary. It takes courage. It takes a lot of courage to have those healthy communications. And it's learning. That's why you have doing your prep work. Doing your prep work will help reduce the anxiety because you feel more prepared. You feel, now you can't control what someone else will say or do, but you can. The healthier you go to that person, the more likely you will have a healthy response. So I'm going to give you an example. Jen is a client that I've worked with. And when she was really scared and she was really angry and had a lot of issues with her husband. And she didn't know if how he would hear her. And so when we would work together in sessions, she would work through her issues and then confront her husband and confront. She would make up that time, talk, and she would be really clear because she healed her piece of what she needed to talk about. Now, there's only so much that you can. Like if you feel that there is an unmet need and you're nervous about what the other person would say, the clearer you are, the more you are likely to have a successful response. So Jen went to her husband, Ryan. And Ryan, when she did her work and she clearly communicated what her needs or wants were, and she did it in a healthy way, Ryan was able to hear her. Now, she was scared. I'm not going to say that she wasn't scared before the conversation, but she was able to do it. It's about allowing yourself to have the courage, and it's building yourself up, knowing that you have a right to communicate in healthy ways to the people you love so that you get your needs met. And ideally, you want to meet theirs too. That's what it's about, is having that give and take, that healthy give and take in relationships. So thank you for that, Allie, because I think there's a lot of people out there. I think most of us. I don't think that there's anybody, when you are going to have a conversation with someone that you love, whoever it is, it could be a spouse, a partner, it could be a child or an adult child. It could be a very close friend. And when you need to bring up the issue so that the relationship continues, it can be really scary. And so what I actually do is when you want to have your preparation, like we talked about, and then I actually imagine sending light, healing light to the conversation, even before beginning the conversation, asking and doing a prayer. Ask that your guides and your angels and that you speak through your higher self, and setting it up so that you set yourself up for success. So thank you so much for sharing that, Allie, and thank you, because that was important. A lot of people have that. I think it's very common. And so what you need to do, all of you, is to be prepared and to also send light. And hopefully that other person can hear you. When you come from the healthier ways, they are more likely to hear you. And so, overview is awareness, knowing what your communication, really helping yourself get into that 100% responsibility, and conscious loving. The Gay and Kathleen Hendricks, that's another book I talked about, talks about 100% responsibility. And you take your responsibility for your piece, and they take responsibility for theirs. And then pick a time. Pick a time that's convenient for both of you. And then you want to really sit with each other and be present, communicating in a healthy way, and each of you taking turns. And again, I'm going to give you the meditation. If you want that meditation, you go to inspiredandempoweredliving.com. inspiredandempoweredliving.com/meditation. And that meditation can help prepare you and help you get into a space, not only to make a decision, but to get into the space you want to be, to have those healthy, clear communications. inspiredandempoweredliving.com/meditation. And I hope that I'd love to hear from you and hear how your communications and conversations are going. And remember that we are live Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern on W4WN.com, Talk4TV.com, and my YouTube station. And you can hear the podcast 24/7 on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, and Apple, and many more. And really want to support you all in having an inspired and empowered day and an inspired and empowered week. Have a great one, everybody. Goodbye for now.